Hello and welcome to The Print. Today marks the 50th anniversary of one of the darkest chapter of Indian democracy, the imposition of emergency by Congress leader and the then PM Indira Gandhi on the midnight of June 25th, 1975. To talk about it more, what happened back then, we have with us Mr. Prodipto Ghosh, who served as the additional district magistrate south in Delhi at the time the emergency was imposed. The emergency, which lasted for 21 months, remains one of the most controversial chapters in Indian democratic history. During this period, civil liberties were suspended, the press was censored, and thousands of political opponents were detained. We have Mr. Ghosh with us to discuss his experience in detail. Sir, a lot of people don't exactly know about what had happened back then when the emergency was announced, was imposed. Can you take our viewers through your experience, what had happened exactly at that time?
So on the night of 25th, 26th June 1975, uh, well, there were five of us who were additional district magistrates in Delhi. At that time, Delhi had only one district magistrate, and there was no police commissioner system. So the
Okay.
police, in terms of their uh, many aspects of their functioning, they were under the guidance of the magistrates. Now, on the evening of 25th June, as you know, there was a big rally at Ramlila grounds, at which a number of opposition leaders, at which they were expected to be present, and all the ADMs were asked by the district magistrate to be present at the Ramlila grounds. So I was there at the Ramlila grounds, and of course, it is at this on this occasion that Jayaprakash Narayan gave his famous, uh, I would say, I would use the word caution to the armed forces, police, and bureaucracy not to obey illegal orders of the political masters. Now, this was a reiteration of well-known norms in these services. So, in that sense, there was nothing unusual, but maybe this reiteration at that venue, on that occasion, may have given rise to some apprehensions. Anyway, while I was there, I was, I was, of course, waiting, waiting outside the dais. I mean, uh, and many of us officers were waiting outside the dais. I saw Jayaprakash Narayan being escorted to the platform by Subramaniam Swami, and so then they went up to the bunch, and then of course the proceedings began. Now the public meeting went off peacefully. There was nothing untoward, uh, nothing extraordinary in the statements made by any of the other opposition leaders. But we were asked by the district magistrate to retain our vehicles and our wireless operators when we went home. So we went home, and then at about 10 o'clock, I got a message on the wireless asking me, and all the other ADMs had also received a similar message, to proceed immediately to the district magistrate's residence office near Tis Hazari.
Okay.
So when I went there, the other ADMs were present, but the district magistrate was not. And we were told by his staff that he had gone to the prime minister's residence. So we waited, and we were actually a little apprehensive about what exactly was the matter, and we had no real inkling of what was to follow. So after about an hour or so, he returned, and he was very disturbed and shaking like a leaf. And then he told us that uh, it had been decided at the level of the prime minister that a large number of opposition leaders were to be detained immediately. and that a list would be forthcoming very soon the SPCID, uh, to his office. Now, you see, we asked him, look, detained, you know, under what law, under what, on what grounds?
Yeah.
And he said that, look, the what we have been asked is that to detain them under the Maintenance of Internal Security Act, which was already in force at that time. But the MISA Act required that within 24 hours of a person being detained, he had to be furnished with the grounds of his detention. And in any case, at the time of the detention, he had to be uh, given a copy of the detention order.
Okay.
Now, the district magistrate said, look, I mean, I don't have the ground before me. And if the detainees go to court tomorrow, I will have nothing to say about on what grounds they were detained. And he was very upset, and he was clear he was under a lot of pressure. So anyway, the decision was that we would issue the MISA detention orders. It is only the district magistrate who was authorized to issue them, and that we would then take the orders to our respective SPs and organize the detention in our district. But there were two logistics problems. One is that we had never issued an order of detention under MISA before.
Okay.
And so, first of all, we had to draft the MISA detention order. And it requires legal expertise. Now, none of us were legal experts, and we did not have the public prosecutor on hand to help us draft it, or any legal advisor from the Delhi government. So, well, we made out a draft. Then the question was that we had to actually produce the number of detention orders.
Yeah.
Now we learned that in this list of persons to be detained, there were some 200 people, or maybe more than that. Now each detention required 5 copies.
Okay.
Now those were the days of no computers, no photocopying machines.
Printers were not readily available.
There were no printers. There were no printers. There were cyclostyling machines. So we had to get a typist to type out on stencils the detention orders, and I was asked that to proceed to our office in Tisazari and try to try to produce those, maybe nearly a thousand copies of the detention order. Now, when we went there were 3 cyclostyling machines, and had was managed to round up 7 staff. Now, the first machine was just out of order; it just wouldn't work. The second machine, it chewed up 2 stencils. They were unusable, and then it stopped working. And the third machine, it worked, but it had to be hand cranked because the motor was not working.
Okay.
So in the process of hand cranking, and the typists sending out copy typing out stencils of the orders. So it was, with the time available, it was just physically impossible, logistically impossible to produce something like 1,000 copies of the detention order. So I would guess that maybe at most about 200 or so were produced. So then they were distributed to the ADMs. They were given the list of detainees in their districts and told to proceed to the offices of their superintendents of police, and that police parties would be organized to uh, to detain the person on the list, whomsoever they were able to find,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
serve the detention orders. Now, the detention orders had to be rationed because while normally 5 copies were to be required, we decided that look at this, given the shortage of physical shortage of detention orders, we would give 1 copy to the detainee and 1 copy he would sign as token of receipt, and this would be retained in the office of the superintendent of police, and the rest would be produced in due course. Now, of course, there was, it was quite a job organizing the different police parties, and they were in touch with us on wireless as they went from house to house. In some cases, among the detainees, they served them the detention orders. In many cases, they did not find them. And then, see, I mean, time was running out. So, we had to say that, look, where the detainee was not found, we'd say just move on to the next person on the list. And so it went on like that. And ultimately, I think on the first night, we managed to serve managed to detain less than half of the people in the list. Now, I must emphasize that when the police parties went to the detainees' homes, there was no violence, there was no need to use force. The detectives, wherever they were, I mean, if they learned that they were to be detained, they came willingly. In some cases, they requested a little time to pack a bag or so, and that was time was given to them.
Hmm.
Now, so we finished this exercise at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and then at till that time we did not know of what precisely was the step that had been taken by the government. We were, in fact, under the impression that some extra constitutional step had been taken. And in my testimony before the Shah Commission, I said as much. I said that my own feeling was that I was in a situation of coup d'etat. Uh, it is only when I went home and turned on the radio that I heard the broadcast of the Prime Minister
Yeah.
saying that an internal emergency has been declared. Now, so it is only at that time that we understood the precise legal and constitutional step that had been taken. Until that time, uh, all we knew was that something very likely unconstitutional was happening, and that the district magistrate had been pressurized to issue these detention orders. But I
Orders.
must emphasize that all this hullabaloo about blank detention orders, that was not a matter of policy. That was purely owing to logistics, and the police parties had no authority to deviate from the list which was given to them by the SPCID. So there was a definite list, and only persons on that list were detained. Nobody else was detained. Now
Hmm.
it is possible that some blank detention orders were retained by a few police personnel, uh, and but there could not have been any misuse because only persons on that list were allowed to be
What
detained.
detail? Oh, yeah. So, sir, you just mentioned about Shah Commission and how you also deposed before it. Sir, the then Delhi LG Krishan Chand's role in carrying out Sanjay Gandhi's instruction also come under scrutiny of Shah Commission. Sir, can you please take us through what you saw?
You see, as far as the detentions were concerned, the LG had no direct role in the detentions. The LG's role came in later in two contexts. One is in organizing the mass family planning campaign of Sanjay Gandhi, and the second in respect of the Turkman Gate relocation. So those were the two, uh, issues with which he was most concerned. Uh, he had only a very peripheral role in the actual detentions.
And sir, what was Sanjay Gandhi's role in the administration, and was there any resistance from the bureaucracy? Because it was believed that administration was just made to toe his instruction to Sanjay Gandhi's line.
You see, none of us received any direct instructions from Sanjay Gandhi. Whatever instructions we got were from the district magistrate. The district magistrate, in turn, got his instructions from the PM's residence.
Got it.
Okay. Now, so the point is that, you see, in the night of the emergency, only the district magistrate was authorized to issue MISA detention orders. The rest of us were not. The rest of us were only serving the order, organizing the serving of the orders on the detectives. Later, when the yeah, after about 10 days, the
Yeah.
additional district magistrates were authorized to issue MISA detention orders, and then they received requests from the police. Now, what happened is that in most cases, the grounds of detention were completely inadequate, and in some cases, we suspected that they were falsified. And so, some of us, you know, said that the police had better give us, you know, more detailed, clearer grounds of detention. And then we were pulled up, and I would say threatened, not by Sanjay Gandhi, but by the LG's office.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, and I mean, the threat was quite direct. And so thereafter, uh, you know, none of us really wanted to be martyrs. So we issued the detention orders as requested, but we made it clear in many cases to the district magistrate that the detention orders, that the grounds of detention were inadequate, and in some cases we expressed our reservations if we felt that they had been falsified. Now, I particularly remember the case of Prabir Prakasta,
Okay.
who was detained on, they were intending to detain, the police was intending to detain somebody else, DP Tripathi, and he was detained by mistake in the first instance. And, you know, I understood immediately that it was a case of mistaken identity. And I reported this fact to the district magistrate, and I said that we cannot issue the detention orders when the wrong person has been detained. And the district magistrate said, "Okay, let me get back, you know, to the powers that be." And then late at night, he called me and said that, well, mistaken identity or not, it has been decided to go ahead with his detention. So
Oh,
we had reservations, but I cannot say that any of us really directly resisted the orders which we were
receiving that time.
follow, which we expected to follow, and which were backed by fairly clear threats.
Understood. So you mentioned about the Turkman Gate incident. Sir, what did you see? What happened there? If you can take our viewers, like, can share your experience.
You see, the Turkman Gate firing did not happen in my jurisdiction, and it did not happen in my presence. So I only went, you know, went to the site after the event when things were being, uh, you know, when there was a lot of tension, and there was expectation that there would be resistance to the movement of people.
What did you see there, sir, when you visited for the first time after the incident?
Well, I saw that demolitions were underway, that, you know, people were, very disturbed by the demolitions. Uh, but there was, at that time, since the firing had already taken place, people were, would count down, and there was no violence at the time when I was there.
Okay. Okay. Sir, in journalist Komi Kapoor's book, it is mentioned where you have also discussed this incident involving Subramaniam Swamy. I think your office called his place because his list name was there in the list. Could you tell us about that incident?
Yes, I have already mentioned that at Ramlila grounds,
Hmm.
I saw Subramaniam Swamy escorting Jayaprakash Narayan to the Manch, and I had already met him earlier, and I
Hmm.
knew him, and so we just exchanged greetings while he was doing that. Now, when the police parties were sent out, one of the his name was there on the list, and one of the parties reached his residence, and his wife informed the police party that he was not in town. He had gone to Chennai to meet his parents. Now, I knew that that was not correct because I had seen him that evening. But we, you know, I confabulated with the SP and said, tell the police party to move on. There is no need to waste time here if he's not in town. I think that if the police party had in fact been instructed to search his residence, they might have found him in the residence.
We are marking 50 years to emergency. I would like to know your opinion. How do you see it change impacting and changing and shaping India's democracy and politics?
You see, the experience of the emergency, I think, has made it clear that uh, that for people cannot be denied democratic rights and freedoms for too long, and that when some political formation tries to usurp powers which do not belong to it under the constitution, or which or if they stretch the constitution to misuse their powers, that is unsustainable in the long run. However, the point is that the resistance to these situations cannot come from within the government. It cannot come from the bureaucracy, from the civil service, or the police, or the judiciary, even the higher judiciary. Because even the highest judiciary, with all its constitutional protections, could give a judgment like the ADM Jabalpur case, holding that not only fundamental rights are in abeyance during the emergency, but even natural rights such as rights to life and liberty are not available during the emergency. So do not expect that within the government there would be resistance. The resistance has to come from the political class, and in turn, that has to draw its sustenance from the way people respond. But that also requires that the political class has lions in their midst, not jackals. And unless we have these two conditions, that there are lions in the political class, that there's a sufficiently aroused public, that the public are not misled into a false consciousness, such a situation can be prolonged. But I do not think that it can last forever.
Correct, absolutely. I would like to thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing your insight with the print. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.